Evolution weekend has been off to a crazy start with moments ago as we had the Great American Bash. What a show we had at the Bash. It was just as chaotic as we had anticipated. And in today's video, I'm going to be revealing the results of the Great American Bash just hours before Saturday night's main event, where we will see Goldberg in his potential final match in his entire professional wrestling career. And the Great American Bash kicked off with a major grudge match between the young OG Javon Evans and the LFG Season 1 winner, on the men's side of things anyway, Jasper Troy. This rivalry had been brewing for at least a few weeks, which I had talked about in my prediction video on Wednesday, actually. And we knew that Javon Evans was gonna be going into this match with bruised ribs, all because of the heinous attacks by Jasper Troy. Over the last few weeks, they had butted heads numerous times, but it all came ahead earlier today at the Great American Bash. We knew that the ribs were going to play a major factor going into this match, and it did. It became a huge factor as Jasper Troy constantly targeted those ribs, stomping on the ribs and just completely decimating Javon Evans. But the final moment may shock you, as the young OG shocked the world by rolling up Jasper Troy to pick up the victory over the monster, as Booker T called him. Honestly, that match was the way it ended, completely unexpected. But knowing Jasper Troy, this rivalry is definitely far from over. We then move from a grudge match to the NXT Women's North American title between Sol Ruca and, of course, Izzy Dame. We knew that after her performance on SmackDown last night, Sol Ruca was coming in with a lot of momentum, even in spite of the loss on SmackDown last night. She was coming into this match with a lot of momentum, and this escalated super quick as we saw Tatum Paxley slap the holy hell out of Zarya, and we thought that Izzy Dame had picked up the victory there, but it did not come to pass, as in the final moments of the match, actually even before that, the match went back and forth, near fall after near fall. There were multiple times where Sol Ruca came this close from hitting Izzy Dame with the Soul Snatcher, but she did hit Izzy Dame with a spear, a little tribute to her bestie, if you will, Zarya. And as Sol Ruca had the pinfall, Tatum Paxley took Izzy's foot, put it on, and put her leg on the ropes, forcing the stoppage of the 3 count, which allowed Zarya to hit Tatum Paxley with a spear, and that allowed Sol Ruca to hit Izzy Dame with the Soul Snatcher to retain the NXT Women's North American title. Now that she has that victory under her belt, both her and Zarya now have momentum going into tomorrow night with Evolution, as they look to become women's tag team champions. In fact, they are looking to become the first tag team in NXT to become the WWE Women's Tag Team Champions, which would be historic for NXT. We move from the Women's North American title to the Men's North American title. Excuse me. As All Ego Ethan Page looked to attempt to silence the Revolution, Ricky Saints, in a Falls Count Anywhere match. I will say that this got chaotic really quickly in the best way possible. This literally went throughout the entire building, and I'll be right back with something. Something just came up. I'll be right back. Alright, you guys, I'm back. Sorry about that. My grandfather walked into my room and handed me something, and it's on my dresser here. Anyway, I'm gonna take care of that later. Anyway, as I was saying, this match between Ricky Saints and Ethan Page it literally escalated really quickly, and it went pretty far. This match went all over the entire building in Atlanta, Georgia. Absolutely chaotic. Tables were used. Kendo sticks were used. It was all over the place. We even saw Jasper Troy attack Ricky Saints, even though it was Ethan Page that pushed Saints into Jasper Troy, which was literally the key that Ethan Page needed to pick up the victory, and indeed he did just that. As it continued all throughout the entire ringside area, and on the stage, Ethan Page hit Ricky Saints with Ego's Edge off the stage through a couple of tables for him to retain the NXT North American title. I can guarantee you Ricky Saints will not let this go, and it ain't gonna be pretty either. So in my opinion, and I mentioned this on X, I feel like that this rivalry should have ended inside a match such as Hell in a Cell, because we all know when it comes to Hell in a Cell, it always ends rivalries just like that. But it is what it is. But I can guarantee you that this rivalry is definitely far from done. We move from that to a contract signing that featured Joe Hendry, Mike Santana, and the TNA champion Trick Williams for a match that will take place next week at Slammiversary, which is one of TNA's biggest pay-per-view events of the year. I think second to Bound for Glory, if you can actually believe it. We all know contract signings, they don't end well. Obviously, Mike Santana got his words in. Joe Hendry got his words in. Trick Williams got his words in. All three signed the contract, and of course, both Mike Santana and Joe Hendry put Trick Williams through a table. But the moment that happened, Darkseid randomly shows up and attacks both challengers, ending that segment at the Great American Bash, which we even found out that the three participants in the triple threat for the TNA title will be taking on Darkseid this coming Tuesday on NXT, just days before Slammiversary, which is going to be very interesting to say the very least. Who knows? Maybe Trick Williams did have something to do with Darkseid. Who knows? Only time will tell. But we move from there to the NXT title between Obafemi and Yoshiki Inamura, and this was the biggest case of big meaty men slapping meat to a T. It was that at its finest. Near fall after near fall, big move after big move. It was, they literally laid it all in the ring until the final minutes of the match, when Josh Briggs attempted to help Inamura, and not even that was enough. The referee got taken down. Josh Briggs multiple times got involved in the match. Yoshiki was like, no, I want to do this on my own. and even that wasn't enough, as Obafemi defeated Yoshiki Inamura with the fall from grace powerbomb to retain the NXT title. But moments after that, Obafemi gave Yoshiki Inamura his props on a crazy matchup and promised a rematch down the road. But we also found out that this Tuesday, Obafemi will look to settle the score against Josh Briggs after what happened in the middle of that title match. But now it is on to the main event. Arguably one of the biggest main events in NXT history, between Fatal Influence members Fallon Henley and the NXT Women's Champion Jacy Jayne against the in-ring debut of Blake Monroe and of course Jordynne Grace. For those who are curious about Blake Monroe, her actual name I think is Mariah May, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong, but I believe it is Mariah May. Blake Monroe. Mariah May, yeah. So her actual name is indeed Mariah May, or actually May, if you can believe it, is actually her middle name, which is very funny. Which is very, very funny. So Blake Monroe had become arguably one of the hottest free agents in professional wrestling today. Obviously had shown a lot of promise from her time in World of Stardom, her time competing in traveling the world in Japan and whatnot, and of course working at another promotion to which, if you know, you know. So Blake Monroe had a lot to prove going into this match, and she delivered big time, having Jordynne Grace's back in that matchup. There were multiple times where she came this close from picking up the victory over Fatal Influence, but of course Jasmine Nix multiple times had gotten involved, kicking Blake Monroe in the ribs, getting literally just almost costing Grace and Monroe the matchup. But then a major player showed up, and I am referencing the TNA Knockouts champion Masha Slamovich, the same woman that took the title off of Jordynne Grace several months back. In fact, I think earlier this year, she actually took the title off of Jordynne Grace earlier this year, on TNA, and yeah, that actually did happen. However, we can't say that. I will say that Masha Slamovich getting involved in that tag match played a huge factor with the ending of that match, because the ending of that match we saw Jacy Jayne attempt a roll-up victory over Monroe. Monroe kicks out, boom, forearm shot by Jordynne Grace onto Jacy Jayne, which allowed Blake Monroe to hit a DDT onto the NXT Women's Champion, picking up a very much needed victory for her team. Now that victory is under the belt of Jordynne Grace, she now has momentum going into her match tomorrow night at Evolution for the NXT Women's title. But the question is, will Blake Monroe be at ringside for Jordan Grace, or will Jordan Grace have no choice but to go at it on her own against JC Jane with the rest of Fatal Influence in her corner? Only time will tell. But I will say that the Great American Bash had once again delivered, and it did not disappoint. Just like 40 years ago in 1985, when the American Dream, the Hall of Famer Dusty Rhodes, created the PLE, and even that night did not disappoint. And today was no different. And on that note, that will do it for today's video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure you guys smash that thumbs up button. If you guys are new to the channel and you guys want more premium live event predictions and results in the future, then be sure to subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and as always, make sure you guys are following me on all of my social media. All of my ads will be in the description below, as will the info to my fan mail. It will also be in the description as well. And on that, this is your boy Nash, signing out.